I mean, you'll come over here, you'll notice that all of our actions are being recorded here. So if we come back and execute this, and this step, I actually used a step that I had customized in code earlier. So if we come back over here, you'll notice it's performing the same actions and executing those. So it's doing the selections. Obviously, you can't see the verifications. But just like regular HTML recording, it does the exact same thing. Executes a test, applies the results. So you don't have to worry about, as you're switching between technologies, about worrying about any differences. So if you have a mix, like a hybrid page with HTML and Silverlight, you're just doing the same recording on the same page. You don't have to worry about specific tests for Silverlight versus a specific test for HTML. So let's actually, yeah.
What about the support for the last framework that Microsoft delivered last week for the framework 4 and Silverlight 4?
Oh, so for the UI automation framework?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Microsoft, it's actually a good question. The Microsoft framework currently uses UI automation as the automation approach. And we've been working on our framework for a long time, so we use kind of a different approach than UI automation does. So, but with that being said, you can still use their framework because I can come over here and say, I can customize this step in code. And I can come down here in the coded view and actually leverage their framework within my coded step. And not only just their framework, our framework, as well as a full .NET framework. So anything you can do in code from .NET, you can do within the test, right? So it does have that full functionality and capabilities, absolutely. Are there any other questions? Cool. So we still have some good time left. I actually want to show some kind of more advanced features, and actually this is a good transition into this. This is kind of, so, I'll be the first one to tell you that you can't record everything, right? I mean, Recorder isn't the end-all solution for automation. I wish it was. And we've taken a lot of steps to get there, but it's not always going to be the silver bullet. So one thing we've done is we've tried to make it in the standalone edition very simple to work with the script. So, you'll notice one thing here is that we didn't convert every single step to code. Like these other steps, they don't have any code. This one has code just because we explicitly wanted to convert it to code, right? So, with this step, or with this test actually, it's a hybrid, right? We've got recorded steps that we can just manage, visually the properties, we can change the elements that they're using. But if we do want to get into code and do more advanced features, we can just do the conversion, we can see what this step looks like within code, and then we can actually customize it, right? And some of the things we can do here, and that we've really made efforts to make simple, is when you work with elements within the application. So, and actually I should stop and talk about our elements repository here. This is actually all of the elements that are in the project right now. And so this is dynamically built. So say you have, you take Bob's tests from your team, throw them in your solution. As soon as you open your project up, we're going to look at all the elements, and anything that you share is going to show up once in here. So this, this element can be used against 1,000 tests. It's only going to show up once if the way we find it is the exact same. So let's say the developer goes and changes an ID, and this test starts failing. A lot of my tests start failing because 1,000 of them are using this. I can actually come in here in one place, edit the way this element is found, and then be able to update that for every single test and step that's using it, or I can actually go through and make a selection. So say I only want to change it for 5 different tests because maybe they're going to be moved over to a demo environment. I can select exactly what test and steps I want to make that change to, and then it'll actually show up as 2 different elements in here. Because at this point, the way we're finding it's different. So it is 2 different elements. It's one that represents how it's being found against these tests, and then it's the other one how it's being found against a whole other set of tests. So that's how we can, that's how we kind of manage elements within the project and make it easier to work with. Now let's go back to code here. So the way you can work with elements is that, let's say you have a step where you want to do some customization in code. So what you can do is you can just go to the browser and say, you know what, I care about working with this date picker. So what I'm going to do is come up to the date picker, and I'm just going to add this element to my project. So I didn't actually record an action or verification instance. I'm just putting it in my element repository so that I can work with it later on. So let's close out of this, or just minimize it. So I can come over here, and now if you do want to work with code, we still support IntelliSense. And you can use any VB language, or VB.NET or C#, any .NET language. So I can come over here and say pages, which represents this node, right? And as soon as I say dot, the IntelliSense is going to give me all the pages within my project, right? So we can go down to the Telerik Google search. Click on that page. And then we say dot again. We're going to see all the elements that are on that page that are in our project. So developer link. So, and if I hover over this, you'll notice that all these elements that are in my project are strongly typed objects, meaning they're the actual control themselves. So this is an HTML anchor. So like if this was a button, I could get a dot click on it, right? And actually I can click anchors as well. So I can just say dot click, and this will actually click my developer link on this page. So since we recognize we can't record everything, we wanted to make it as simple as possible to be able to customize your test using the elements in your project and being able to kind of intelligently say, okay, these are my pages, these are my elements, and breaking it down to be more simple. Make the scripted solution easier to work with, where it doesn't require a lot of complexity and having to craft a find mechanism to, how am I going to find this on my page? We abstract out all that complexity for you. Are there any questions on that, or what you can do or can't do in code? Cool. So, and the last thing I want to show you is actually, well, one of the next to last things I want to show you is actually the ability to take one test and use that to iterate through a lot of data to actually drive that test and test a lot of possible matrices and possibilities for your page. So let me go back to my project. Did I delete that other test? I think I may have. Yeah, so let me actually re-record this test quickly. So let's clear out these steps. So basically we're going to go back to that Ajax example where we were picking the make, model, and color of the car. And what we're going to do is we're going to test for every possible combination. So within our database, we have a set of makes, we have a set of models, and a set of colors that are specific. So every time we select a make, we get certain models. So what we want to be able to do then is test every possible combination of make, model, and color. Now, I haven't built the data source out to do every single possible combination because we don't want to be here all day while it's executing. But I just want to kind of hone it and show you how this can be done, because you can take one simply recorded test and make it very, very powerful. So let's just start off by recording the base test, which is what we're going to use. We don't really care about what values we're selecting right now. We're just kind of setting up the infrastructure for it. Then we're going to go back and we're going to do the same thing that we did. We're going to craft our verifications. And actually, we're going to turn those into waits so that we're waiting for the values to exist. So we're going to wait for those makes and the make to exist. We'll go to here, contains that, and then also for the color. Okay, and then let's go back to our test. So like we did before, we're just going to turn these into waits. So let's move this up to right before the selection. There we go. So let's do a quick run just to make sure everything's in shape.